So about a year and a half ago, there was an article that was written that advanced this idea that the brutality of ISIS, particularly its practice of slavery, was actually something that was Islamically sanctioned. And I would have never thought in 100 years that as an imam I would have to actually do a sermon or do classes about slavery and how it has, how the practice of ISIS is as far away from Islam as anything could possibly be. But this actually shook people's faith. And I think that many times we fail to realize that the Islamophobic climate around us cannot but be internalized, especially by youth who don't have a foundation to really respond to these claims. So I set out to actually do a webinar on slavery, which was about a 3-hour webinar where I went through the history of slavery and some of the details and what it meant in the time of the Prophet Muhammad ﷺ. And no, it didn't have the amount of viewers that typically a webinar about one of the prophets of Allah or about a story that's very well known would have. It didn't have that type of traction, or so I thought it would not. But what ended up happening was that as soon as I finished that webinar, the first 2 emails I received, one of them was from a prominent scholar who said that, thank you for doing this because I've been trying to figure out how to answer this question. And when he wrote that email, it was touching to me because he's a prominent scholar and he was saying that even I needed this. I needed a more organized and structured approach to deal with this issue. And then the next email was from a 19-year-old Muslim sister that lives here in Texas that was saying that this webinar actually saved her faith. And that she, because of that article, thought about leaving Islam, but now she actually felt like she had that foundation, she had that understanding. It was really there that I recognized the importance of an effort like this. That, the ideas that are floating out there about women, about terrorism, whatever it may be, are going to be ingested by young people in our community, not just young people, but people that are mothers and fathers and have children in Sunday schools and don't know how to answer these types of questions. It's going to affect their psyche and the way that they look at their faith. And the narrative will ultimately become theirs and generations that come after them. So we have to counter that. And I recognize that this is where we need to really be putting our effort. This is where we need to be dedicating our resources to reclaiming the narrative. And I'll give you an example, the Imam and the Pastor video that I had the pleasure of doing with Reverend Andy Stoker, just about this idea of solidarity with Muslims and Christians and standing firm in the face of bigotry and how people can work together despite their clear differences. That video had a reach of almost 3 million people just through our outlets. We really have an opportunity here, inshallah, to reclaim the narrative, not just for non-Muslims, but for ourselves. So I want you to support our ongoing online fundraising campaign so that we can continue to put out material that's going to save people's faith and that's going to provide a platform and a resource for non-Muslims that are looking for authentic answers about Islam. So go to yaqeeninstitute.org/donate, spread the message, inshallah. Let's continue to grow this platform so that we can address more and more of these issues and more substantive matters. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.